There we go. That'll work. That'll work. So today on Streaming Idiots, I'm going to open my little black bag and share with you some of my secrets of how I configure vMix PCs before I ship the ones that we build. So hang on a minute and we will get into that. Be right back. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. We'll get ready for this. This is going to be interesting, to be sure. So we're still in pre-show. You know how I know that? That word right there. Yes, it's a giveaway. It's a giveaway. But I got inspired on this yesterday, and I must have woken up 6 times last night, realizing that my brain was processing how I was going to present this, and had trouble getting back to sleep. So if I nod off during this broadcast, just send me a little message. And if you're watching this after the fact, leave a comment. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So we got just under 4 minutes to go. We were off for the holiday last week, and it was great. Had a house full. All 3 of my boys and their families filled up the house. There was, well, other than my office, there was not a room available. I keep an office in the house. And so it was really pretty spectacular. My oldest grandson is 15 and has his learner's permit for driving. So I got to drive with him some during the day and also at night, and it was an adventure. He's still learning. He needs some more time behind the wheel. Let's put it that way. But it was fun, and I was glad to give it to him. And just little tips and tricks about how to find the curb without hitting it, those kinds of things. It was fun. It was fun. He's a good kid. He's level-headed. I think he's going to be okay with a car, and him being the driver, of course, when the time comes. So, yeah. vMix threw out a new update number 40 here, a couple of days ago, I think, and made the changes that are scrolling across the bottom of the screen. This is the point in the life of a software product, or a point in the life of vMix, and I've watched this multiple times, where it's the rare things that are coming across as bugs. The things that a small percentage of folks are the ones that are using it in this way and encountering this bug. So yeah. But today's going to be fun and different. And welcome, Otis. Glad you're here. Glad you made it. Are you having snowstorms yet? Of course, Otis is the one that has 130-degree temperatures in the summer. The trick is to stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer, as they say. Yeah, it was a little cool here today. It was in the 30s, high 30s last night. So for us, that's cold. For us, that's cold. For it to get below freezing is rare. So maybe once a year, maybe twice, we'll get a hard freeze, but some years not. Some years not. Well, let's see. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? And I'm really excited about sharing this information with you. Hopefully it earns me a thumbs up. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Intro, outro. Here we go. Virtual opening. This is it. Love it. Hat tip again to Martin K on the intro and the outro to follow. And yeah, it's just eclectic enough to fit me, don't you think? So today we are going to talk on Streaming Idiots about how to tune your PC for vMix. And this is primarily desktops, but some of this will apply to laptops as well. And some of it is a matter of tuning the hardware, the PC itself. The PC itself. We'll be making some changes in the BIOS, and then in Windows we'll be making some changes, and then in some other ancillary products like NVIDIA graphics driver, we'll make some changes, and we'll walk through those all. We'll walk through those all together. But let's start with the NVIDIA graphics. Let me close this window for a second and pop this window up there. And let me draw your attention to the window on the top left corner. We'll maximize that one for a second. This is the NVIDIA control panel. And there are a couple of things that we'll do here. One is we'll go to Help, and we'll go to System Information. And in System Information, it will tell us what driver we're using. Do I have this on sharpen? Let me sharpen it for just a second. That'll help a little bit. I know it's fine print. It gives us the driver we're using, which is important. It tells us about the card that we're using, how many CUDA cores it has, and whether resizable bar is being used or not. Now, a resizable bar is pretty important if you're doing a lot of graphics, and vMix is using the graphics card for a lot of that. Could be for cameras as well. And resizable bar basically allows vMix to use more than just the cache on the card. It allows it to use all of the unused random access memory. And I'll show you in just a minute. That'll be one of the changes to the PC, how to turn it on if it's not already on. In this case, resizable bar says yes. So that's good. That means it's already on, but I've got a PC hooked up back here, and I'll show you in the BIOS, at least for that PC, how it would do. So let's close this for a second. And we'll go to Manage 3D Settings here in the left column. And then we'll scroll down here, and we're looking for Power Management Mode. In Power Management Mode, we want to say, hey, we prefer maximum performance. And then if I hadn't already selected that, a little button down here would allow me to apply it. And so, oh, you're not seeing this window, are you? Let's start again. Let's start again. So we've got 3D settings here in the top left corner. And then that's going to allow us to scroll down here to Power Management mode and select Prefer Maximum Performance. Now, your system may say something else, but you want to have the choice that's going to really give you the most control over the card and not let Windows control it. And let's go to the second part of that right now. We'll close that one. And right now, this is Windows 11. I am in this, what am I in? I'm in settings. Yeah, there we go. And I'm looking for graphics. So here we go, graphics settings. And I'm gonna scroll down here to custom settings for applications, because I wanna make sure that Windows knows that vMix has a priority. And you can see down here, vMix is on the list, but vMix is not always on the list. So you may have to go to Add Desktop App, navigate, let's see where we are on the main drive, go to Program Files, x86, scroll down and find vMix, scroll down and find vMix 64 EXE and add it. I'm not going to add it because it's already added there. Once you add it, you can come down to the drop down over here and the drop down here and say, let Windows decide. No. Power savings? No. High performance? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So there we go. That's what we want. And we don't want to reset it. We just want to set it like that. And it will stick. It will stick. And that is going to allow vMix to use as many of those CUDA cores as it possibly can. So that's a good thing. So let's go back to our screen capture here in just a second. And we're going to look for power, because this is where we want the PC to have its most power. And I'm going to scroll way down this list. They hide it down here at the bottom. And I'm going to choose a power plan. And let me drag in the window that just popped up here in front of me. There we go. And previously, it had been on balanced. Let's just change it back to balanced. Well, we don't want to do that. Yeah, let's see. We'll save it on high performance, but on your system, high performance is not going to be listed. You're going to have to come down here to, what does it say previously? It says show additional plans, and you'll have to choose high performance from that list, because it doesn't want you to choose high performance, because it just, wants to use as little amount of energy as possible. So you want to be high performance. You're good there. And then my recommendation is over here to choose when to turn off the display. And mine is turn the display off never, and put the computer to sleep never, because there may be times in a broadcast where you are idle. You may have one camera fixed on somebody that's speaking, and they're speaking and they're not moving, so you're not really doing anything. And if this times out and puts your computer to sleep in the middle of a broadcast or puts your screen to sleep, it can be a little bit of a panicky situation. So recommendation is never turn off the display, never put the computer to sleep. And that's, again, under the graphics setting. And I didn't bother to go through the menus over here on the left. I just straight to what I want. And I'm just going to say graphics. Got to spell it right. PHICS, graphics, and I'm going to go to graphics settings, and then I'm going to look for this right here for vMix, and then for power I'm just going to type in power, scroll down and find the choose a power plan, high performance, and then turn off the display, or don't turn off the display. All right. Okay, so that's graphics and power. In vMix, and let me show you my vMix desktop for just a second. We'll put that there. There we go. In settings, top right-hand corner, we're going to bring up the performance tab of settings. And in my system, I've got a 4070 Ti Super with rebar enabled, and we'll get back to rebar in just a minute. I didn't select that, vMix selected that. I'm not using low latency capture. And since I have rebar, I'm not using high input performance mode. And I wish vMix would put a little tag here that says, hey, if you have rebar, don't use high input performance mode. But high input performance mode was for those pre-rebar cards that had more than 3 gigabytes of memory. So you can accidentally shoot yourself in the foot by selecting high input performance mode, because you really don't want to use that if you've got rebar. And if you don't have rebar, you should have rebar. And I think rebar kicked in either in the 3000 series or the 4000 series. But in some cases, your motherboard might not have that turned on. The newer motherboards do, but some of the older motherboards may not. So let's go take a look at a motherboard. This is the BIOS. If you're a little uncomfortable with BIOSi, multiple BIOSes. If you're not comfortable or familiar with BIOS, this may be a bridge too far. And shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and I'll see if I can help you on your particular manufacturer. This, and let me cut to it, this is the BIOS for a Asus what is this? Does it tell us? Let me get my other mouse here. And yeah, I don't have, that mouse is not, doesn't seem to be hooking up. What is this for? Does it tell us? Doesn't appear to tell us. But it's an Asus, I think it's a B560M motherboard. It's a micro board, so it only has 4 PCIe slots. But in this case, and this is sort of an older BIOS, although it's copyrighted 2025. Across the top, you'll see some tabs. We're on the main tab. We'll go, oops, is it not working now? Have we timed out on this thing? Yeah, we've timed out on it. Let me see if I can reboot it and get it hooked back up again. 1 second here. There we go. Got to get the right mouse. All right, 1 second. It's actually this little guy right here, and we had to do some finagling to get that to display. Great shot of my derriere there. There we go. Okay, so we got it to display here. And is our mouse back? Mouse doesn't appear to be back. But let's see if we can't get that. Yeah, let's go back to the other monitor and see if it'll work now. And this is just HDMI out from this PC. There we go. To a Blackmagic capture card. HDMI over here. All right, so we've got this back. We've got main across the top. And now it decides not to work again. Oh, there we go. It's just a little slow. And yeah, there we go. All right, so we got main, pressing the right button. AI tweaker, we're not interested in that at this moment. Advanced, there we go. Advanced we are interested in. And this can be a little confusing the first time you see it. And it'll start out here at the top with platform miscellaneous configuration. And every time I press the enter key, it will go into that and allow me to see what's there and how to enable it or disable it. And to get back out of that section, I'll press the escape key. And then I can go into the next one and the next one and the next one. And I just happen to know that the rebar setting is down here, because I've already set it on this one, in the PCI subsystem settings. So we will, and the menu, I don't know if you can see in the top right-hand corner how that changes. That's information about what this particular menu is, PCI, PCIX, and PCI Express settings. Okay, well, that's going to be the graphics card. So we have here, the number one on the list is resizable bar support. I'll press the enter key, and I've got a choice of disabled and enabled. In a lot of older motherboards, it's disabled. We want to enable it. And then very simply at this point, F10, well, let's go escape to get back here, and then we'll do F10 to save the configuration and exit. And that, and different BIOSes look different. A different BIOS might look different from this BIOS. And you may have to Google for your particular motherboard how to change the resizable bar settings in the BIOS. But as long as you don't change anything, you're okay, except the resizable bar, of course. That's the one you want to look out for, because that's the one with all the joy. All right, so we go back over here. We've got this back up. We can come into, let me grab the mouse here, because we should have a mouse available now. There we go. I saw it just a second ago. Let's see if we can find it. Top right-hand corner, we'll come down here. And we'll find, is that the NVIDIA control panel? Looks like it could be. Let's go there. And we'll come to help, system information. And it says what driver we have. Again, resizable bar is on. CUDA cores 2300 is quite different from the 4070 Ti Super, which was like 8800 or something. But that's okay, because we have resizable bar. And on this particular machine, I don't think I've even got vMix enabled, but we were just building it up to get ready for that. So yeah, there we go. So we're good there. So we know that we have that system set up for resizable bar. Here on my main system, we have We've set up the power on the PC through Windows. We've set up the graphics on the PC through Windows. We've set up the graphics on the PC through the NVIDIA control panel. We've double-checked the performance settings in the vMix setting for performance. So there, that's a good one to go. Let's see, what have we not done? Let's look for just a second if there's anything that we should have done that we didn't do. We got Windows. Oh, while we're talking about it, yes. Let's talk about Windows updates. I'm currently on 11. All the systems that I've got here are on 11 except for my Microsoft Surface Pro Microsoft, which is still on 10. I'm struggling to get enough disk space on there to put 11 on there. But I've almost got to the point of cleaning that up enough to do that. But it's still critical, Windows 10 or Windows 11, that your Windows are up to date. And let me bring, let me do the full screen again. And let's go and take a look at that. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to be able to do it during a broadcast anyway. But this is the Windows 11 settings. I'm going to go to Windows Update. I think it's going to fail. Yeah, something went wrong because I'm running vMix right now. And when I get out of vMix, it'll update again. But the purpose of doing that, had it worked, would have been to show you that you can force an update. A lot of times Windows will come up and say, "Hey, I'm up to date. Don't worry, I got your back." Windows is a liar. Windows does not have your back, and Windows may not be up to date. And sometimes you click the update button and it just updates, you know, some minor things, you know, maybe some files for the, I don't know, for something. Anyway, the important thing to know about all this is that once you've done an update and you've rebooted the computer, which is always a wise thing to do, so the update, not all updates take effect immediately. Some of them have to, you know, kind of finish their install on a reboot or a shutdown and then a restart. But once you've restarted your PC, go back to Windows Update again and check and you know, again, force the update. Don't let its little statement that you're up to date fool you. Force the update and see if you have more updates. If you haven't updated in a while, by forcing it, you may have more updates. I worked with Windows 10 probably 2 years ago. I worked with a client and we went through that process 21 times before his system was completely up to date, because one update begets another update, begets another update, and they not always do you have a cumulative update that covers a multitude of update possible sessions. But 21 times, and his system was up to date. And all the problems that he had been experiencing, all of the problems that he had been experiencing went away. They were gone. The Windows Update fixed his problems with vMix. vMix is critically dependent on Windows being up to date. It really is. Why? Why does it make a difference? Why is an update not being installed means somehow vMix has changed? Don't know. Don't really need to know. But you need to know that keeping Windows up to date is really critical for a smooth running vMix system. So you may want to set, here in the studio, I have Windows updates turned off. I don't want them updating at all unless I'm aware of it. And I make sure to update them about the 4th week of the month. On the 2nd Tuesday of the month, Microsoft rolls out most of their Windows updates that they've been kind of accumulating down the way. What it's called Patch Tuesday. Maybe it's not as important now as it used to be, but occasionally we'll get a bad update. Just a month or so ago, we had a bad update that broke some things in NDI. I remember it was like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe more than that now, where there was an update that disabled many webcams. If you had a USB webcam, suddenly it stopped working. And it took the worldwide community a few days to figure out which update it was. And then you can go in, in that case, we went in and uninstalled that update, and our webcam use came back. So it's a good idea not to do an update right before a broadcast, and probably wait until the end of the month, or at least a week or two after Patch Tuesday, so that if there was something broken, it's had a chance to get fixed. Not always the case, but that's your best shot. Windows updates. It's also a good idea to update the video card driver, the NVIDIA driver, maybe monthly. Sometimes NVIDIA will put out 2 or 3 updates a week. Most of those don't have anything to do with us, but it's a good idea to stay up to date. It's also, and I say this, maybe with a tad bit of uncertainty, but I think it's a good idea to periodically update your Blackmagic design capture card driver. There have been a few drivers over the years, and again, I think like last year, that gave vMix heartburn, simply because of something in the driver had changed. And I think there was actually a release in version 28. We're on 29 now. vMix release of version 28 that fixed, or didn't fix, or prevented a bad driver issue with the Blackmagic card to not bring vMix down. I think in some cases people all of a sudden couldn't see their cameras because there was a problem with the Blackmagic driver. By reverting back to a previous version, that may have been 14 or 13, I don't remember, but by reverting back to a previous version, they were able to restore functionality. Yeah. The other thing, and going back to NVIDIA for just a second, traditionally vMix has not lived well in the same environment as the NVIDIA Experience app. And so it was possible and recommended when you downloaded the driver for the NVIDIA graphics card and you installed it, that you did a custom installation, and that you chose just the graphics driver, and that you did a clean install, which meant it went through and deleted every NVIDIA file that ever lived, and then just put the graphics card driver down there. And that will include the control panel. And I think recently NVIDIA has renamed Windows Experience, GeForce Experience as maybe the NVIDIA app is what they're calling it now. Anyway, don't be fooled by that. You just want the driver. You just want the driver. The idea is that you're creating a system, a PC system, that doesn't have anything you don't want, to slow it down. It would be like, okay, so we're going to go to NASCAR, but in NASCAR, we want to add an air conditioner, and we want to add a touch display, and we want to add a trailer hitch because we might want to do something with that, and we want to add some other features that will make our lives more comfortable, but will slow down the car. In the case of the PC, those other features may not even make your life more comfortable, but we definitely don't want to slow down the car. And that reminds me of one other thing that I want to share. Let's go ahead and cut over to this, and I am going to go to Task Manager, and let's bring up that Task Manager window right here. There we go. And here in Task Manager, these are all our processes. These are all the processes that are running now. You can scroll through them. You can see how much CPU, memory, disk, and network they're using. Obviously, right now we've got vMix using, what, 5, 6, 8, 10%, a couple gigs of memory, and some network, very little disk space. We can go to the Performance tab, and we can see, more specifically on the CPU, more specifically on the memory, and we see the memory is pretty stable. Disks, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3. We can see the Ethernet usage, which is not a lot. We can see the sending usage down here at the bottom and the receiving usage. And we can see the graphics card. And 3D is really the one that I'm keeping my eye on. That's where the usage is. We can see the app history. Really don't care about that. But startup apps is something that we do want to pay attention to. Oops, looks like a new one's been added called Adobe Collab Syn. So we are going to disable that rascal. I don't know what it is, but I don't want it. Blackmagic streaming service allows me to update the firmware on the Blackmagic card periodically, so I'm going to keep that. I'm not using central control right now, so I've disabled it, but I can disable it later. Excuse me, the desktop video updater is the one that updates the Blackmagic card. I use Dropbox, so I want that. I'm not using Teams, so I've disabled that. Not using mobile devices, disabled that. Not using phone link, disabled that. Not using whatever this audio service is, so I've disabled that. Security, health, systray. I need to check that. I don't know that I need that. Terminal I've got disabled. UMC audio something app is the Behringer UMC 404 HD, so I'm going to leave that enabled. And Waves is a VST3 plugin service that I use, so I'm going to leave that enabled. But some of these aren't even measured, but it does reduce the BIOS time, the fewer that you have. It also means that these aren't just hanging out in memory. If we go back to processes, we can see that some of them do want to hang out in memory. Here's AnyDesk. It's using 26 megabytes, but that's not much, but it's using something. Samsung Magician, which has to do with what is Samsung? Oh, it has to do with the SSD. Is using some memory. vMix Social is using some memory. NDI Remote, not using it, but it's using some memory. It's hanging out in there. There's the Waves local server, 17 megs. And we can look through the list. TeamViewer, I'm not using it right now, but it's running, it's running in the background with 10 megs of memory. Now, the nice thing about vMix is, as we look through the rest of this, here's a vMix service that's running 5 megs of memory. The nice thing about vMix is, let's scroll back up to the top, that vMix is typically, well, let's go to performance right here to memory. Typically, vMix is using less than 16 gigs of RAM. Right down here, we can see it's 10. Committed's 15.8, so that's what we've committed for vMix, but we're only using 10.6, or excuse me, 10.0. So disabling any startup applications is a really, really, really great idea. The other thing that I would suggest, and let's go back to the screen cap for just a second. This is the settings page. I'm going to come down here to apps and come to installed apps. And we can look that there is an enormous amount of apps on here, most of which I didn't put there, like Microsoft Bing. How many times have I gotten rid of that? Can I not get rid of it? Let this app run in the background. Power optimized. Never. Let's get rid of that. Put that back where it was. Go back to installed apps. Occasionally I'll find something like that that has installed itself. Teams. I take that back. I use Teams periodically. Let's go down here a little bit further. Firefox. We'll have to get rid of that. Refresh Firefox. Cancel. Well, did that take the place of uninstalling it? Let's see. Okay, there we go. We have to do it twice. Nope. Okay, so it's refreshing Firefox. And now maybe we can get rid of it. Firefox will be uninstalled. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, and that took out the other Firefox as well. Here it looks like I've got a graphics driver and a control panel. They're dated differently. 58157 is the one I've got, and that looks like October 22nd. So I'm due for an update here before too long. Let's see, what else? There are the old VB cables from way back when. I'm just keeping those out of loyalty. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it. I may have forgotten one or two things, and you know, you may have one or two things on your list. If you do, I'd love to hear them, because I would incorporate them almost immediately. Michael is asking in the chat, what version of vMix, of Windows 10 Pro would you suggest? Yeah, that's a great question. Let's move into the post show, and we will get into the specifics on that. Stick around. All right. So, Otis, Bill, Michael, Gunner. All right. What version of Windows 11 Pro would you suggest? Asked because Microsoft offered to upgrade me to 25H2 yesterday, and with the catastrophic on NDI last time, I'm hesitating. I understand. I understand. And as a rule, I tend to ignore those, you know, asking me to update to the next version of Windows, not just an update, but to an update to the next version. I had a problem with that about 6 months ago. Was working on a vMix Obtainium system, actually several of them, and the motherboard that vMix had recommended did not work with 25H2. And there was a conflict between that and the graphics card on that particular motherboard. And so the manufacturer of the motherboard, Gigabyte, had to send me a link to use 25H1. I think that was what it was. Or it could have been 24H1. Anyway, it was an H1 and not the H2 because of that problem. Have since learned that Gigabyte has fixed that in their BIOS, but at that time, you know, that's what it was. And so sent that out with a note to the client saying, hey, you know, if you're going to go to H2, you need to do a BIOS update first. Call me for instructions and assistance. Haven't heard from them, which I think probably meant, you know, they're just going to stay where they are, take updates to H1 as long as they can. And then they'll be on the phone with me. But I think I'm on H2. Let me just double check here. Let's minimize that. Let's go back here. Let's go to settings and we'll go to system. We'll go about, and we can see (25H2). Yeah, there we go. And I installed that back in March. Actually, I think that was 25H1 I installed back in March. But I have been using this one. Let's see if we can see how long I've been using it. More options. Don't have more options. Installing pending updates, manually updating, uninstalling problem. Yeah, this is just help. But if I were not if I were not running vMix, I would have the ability to go in and look and see what my update history is and when I installed 25H2, so that I can give you a better answer. But I don't use a ton of NDI. I've got NDI cameras in the studio. This camera is NDI. That camera's NDI. That camera's NDI. That camera's NDI. And occasionally I'll do NDI with other devices in the studio, although I've been using OMT for some of it. But I think the idea is that you can install an update and then you can uninstall it. You know, I might pick a period of time where I wasn't really busy and I had time to troubleshoot if there was a problem. I don't know what the benefits to H2 are, but I like being current. I think vMix is happy when I'm current on those kinds of things. So there is that. Whoa, excuse me. Welcome, Michael Graves. Welcome, Tommy Willis. Didn't see you slip in. Thank you for the mention. Yes, I can send receive H. Well, yeah. I can send receive NDI. I did it with this little yellow one back here. I've got a vMix Go that I've refurbished over here that I do NDI with. So yeah, no problems. No problems. Thank you, Michael. And Michael Graves, Michael G, worth noting that a regular backup routine can save your day. I like to make a full image before running updates. Wise move. Wise move. And what that means is you don't have to worry about trying to uninstall updates. You just revert back to your backup. Having never done that, I have never backed up anything in my entire life. Well, I take that back. Most of the stuff on this system backs up to Dropbox whenever I change it. So I guess I do. But how many times have I gone back to it? I don't remember any. Exactly. Yep. And it's nice. I mean, Michael, are you doing a? Yeah, you're doing a full image, so you're not doing an incremental backup like we used to do. So a full image. How are you doing that? Are you doing that to an SSD that's a second SSD that's installed in your system? Or are you doing it onto a remote SSD, a portable SSD, or to, well, you're doing an image. So I guess you could take the image and you could store it on a NAS or in Dropbox or something like that. We're not talking about a U-Haul, Tommy. Although it's a good image. But the idea of, okay, he's got a USB 3 attached SSD. There you go. And the idea is that, you know, you can make that do its thing, and it does its thing. You don't have to spend a lot of time with it. Question for Michael Graves from Michael Quest. Yep. I've used that. Yeah, I think the key to something like that is to make it as hands-off, as hands-free as possible. And if Michael G is leaving that SSD plugged in to the USB 3 port all the time, then he just has to hit a couple of buttons and walk away. And the next day he comes back, he's got an image, and he can use his computer any way he wants. Any way he wants. Any way he wants. So, guys, after hearing all my tips and tricks, all my secrets, does anybody have any to add? Any tips or tricks? And this goes for folks that are watching this after the fact as well. If you've got something that you're doing that you're supercharging vMix with, I'd love to know if you'd put it in the comments. Okay. Michael says, if the boot volume doesn't have creative content, the image size is small. There you go. So in my case, I've got a solid state drive. I think it's a 250, might be a 500 as my main drive for the operating system and software. And then I've got 2 solid state drives that are my recording drives. So I would just back up my main drive. Yeah. There you go. Otis is cloning his SSD. Otis, you have more than one SSD? Michael Q says he always tries to install programs on another drive other than the C drive. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. I like to put them all on the C drive. That way, if my C drive goes bad, I lose everything. No, just teasing. Good stuff. There you go. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. If the C drive is his Windows drive, he can reset that anytime he wants without having to lose all his programs that are also on the same drive. There you go. Exactly. Exactly. I like it. I like it a lot. On OneDrive. There you go. Yeah, so Michael Graves, in some ways, is doing it the old school way of making a backup. And looks like Otis is doing it the old school way of making a backup to a drive. Michael Q is spinning it up to the cloud. I guess you would say I'm spinning it up to the cloud too. You know, it's funny. I don't do virus protection. That's something I should have mentioned during the show, is not to use virus protection. I mean, if your PC is dedicated for, you know, for streaming and production, then I don't think you're at any risk. I haven't gotten a virus. I haven't gotten a virus on a PC in maybe a decade or more. I think my wife got something on hers because she opened an email that she acknowledged she shouldn't have opened. But, and it wasn't opening the email, it was clicking the link. 30 years on Windows. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. My first Windows was back in 88, 98, 08, 18. So 27 years, 37 years. Oh, understood. Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. One of my friends here in Fairhope is in charge, runs the live stream for the local high school for sports, and he has some really gung-ho teenagers that work with him. One of which is the TD. And he is always making changes to vMix and to whatever else. And inevitably, he makes a change that has an unexpected result, but he doesn't know what it was he changed. But I think they enjoy, I won't say enjoy, I think they learn from their mistakes and going back and trying to figure out how to fix it. And that's a great exercise. I think it exercises the mind as well as gives you experience for the future. So I'm like that. I like that a lot. But, you know, we've all been in the situation where somebody else has been using our equipment and they've done something to it that might be irreversible. So yeah, a backup is a good way to do it. I started on Windows 3.0 with a PC with an 8088. Whoa. I think the first Windows I used, was there a 2.2? I don't remember. Yeah, there you go. You can never have too many on hand, I don't think. I mean, all of mine are new in the box, waiting to go in a PC, but other than that, yeah. Yeah. Lovely. All right. Well, guys, I've enjoyed hanging out with you today. I'll see you next Wednesday on another edition of Streaming Idiots. But in the meantime, have a great week. Thanks for watching.